You know what I mean? I get what you're saying. It's worded in such an odd manner that it leads you to believe that, okay, this company is not doing any form of like MA.
Yeah, but
Um,
again, I'm of the opinion, my man, and again, I could be wrong, everyone, and again, not financial advice. Do not take this as trading advice in any capacity, but reread that paragraph, reread it several times, and you might quickly come to an ideology that this thing could actually have a merger if it's read a certain way.
Someone in the comments said, if what ABC is saying true and a merger is possible, then they are also liquidating because liquidation is included in that sentence. Obviously, they are not liquidating, so no merger.
But they are liquidating their own assets from the stores that they closed. So again, they are forming a bit of liquidation internally. They haven't said, we're liquidating, we're filing for chapter 7 or 11. We haven't taken to that context, but the first sentence says we're not going bankrupt. And then they start off by saying that so and so, the merger, the liquidation, we're not in process of such right now. Maybe the deal's already fucking signed.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because here's the deal. Like, there was a lot of wording in that shit too that said, we're not going bankrupt, but we can still go bankrupt. It was really fucking odd. You read that too, right? Because like there's a lot of fucking shit in the 8K, and it says, oh, if we can't get this money, if this deal doesn't come through, then yes, we will have to file bankruptcy. So it's like they go back and forth. So there's a lot of like, they say one thing and then they cancel it out with something else. So it's really hard to say, do I think bankruptcy is a thing anymore, period? Fuck no. It's fucking done. Not only that, their fucking creditor just gave them another fucking $100 million. So I really don't think they're going bankrupt
Well, Saru
anytime
says it
soon.
best. Merger is specifically put in that context in that paragraph. But maybe it isn't a fucking merger of two companies. Maybe it's an acquisition. That
Right.
word's not
So,
showing.
or maybe someone's just coming in, restructuring a company, and they fix it, and then it doesn't mean that it can lead to a merger later on. As of right now, it seems to me, based off the filings, they're basically stating we are not doing an acquisition. But I really don't know. Here's the deal: if there's someone who comes in and buys a bunch of fucking equity, they can just decide, okay, well, Bed Bath at the time didn't want to do an acquisition, and we're deciding to do one. So there's a lot of things that can happen in that process. One thing I wanted to highlight here is, to sum all this up, I'm going to read this out for you guys so you guys can hear it. So basically, we know the board members were all successfully voting in on July 14, 2022, when the annual shareholders meeting took place. We also know the removal of Triton as the CEO took place on June 29th. I believe between the 29th of June to the 14th of July was establishing the interim CEO setup SUGEV. Once the 14th hit and the announcements were made, I believe there was a 1-month operation to discuss the action plan to acquire Bed Bath & Beyond. It was at this moment RC committed to conducting an MA. RC would go on to sell his shares a month later, after the 14th of July, on the 16th and the 17th of August, as he wouldn't be able to conduct an MA if he had shares in the company. And I guess that has to do with also him making an offer, because that was also a big thing too, was he couldn't basically be an insider if he wanted to, bid on the company. Basically, it's a conflict of interest. Fun fact is 6 months from those dates is the 16th and the 17th. And you guys know me. After the 20th, I don't want to fucking hear a goddamn fucking date. I don't want to hear it. And I love ABC and I support ABC. And if ABC tells me it's possibly on the 10th or 7th, PP is probably going to perk his ears up. Same thing with Whoop Ass. If Whoop Ass is saying the same thing, it could be 10th or 17th. My ears are starting to perk up a little bit. But here's the problem with the dates. People go heavy on calls. You can hype up dates if you want. If you want to be hyped for a date, I'm all for you. But the moment you start dumping in stupid fucking money into speculative dates, that's when you can lose quite a bit of money. And look, me personally, today on this fucking $2 dip, you know what I fucking did, baby? I fucking went and bought $3 2024s for January because they're gonna fucking print. And look, the theta's not gonna kill me this time, thank God, you know, on a lot of my calls, but I'm still holding 5s for February as well. So, you know, I'm trying to reposition a couple of my plays so that I can, you know, start making some like real fucking cash back. But just be careful with these speculative dates. You know, nothing's guaranteed. You know, everything could be saying that it's going to be, everything you could be saying could happen, you know, be set to happen on the 17th, and then it happens on the following Monday, right? So just be careful with these dates, careful with your calls, and you know, try not to be emotional, you know, in this trade. But yeah, basically the TLDR is Ryan Cohen's part of the company. Ryan Cohen's going to take this through MA. You know, are we going to see MA? I have no fucking idea. Are we going to see the price jump and get back to a stable price? Absolutely. And are we going to go through a squeeze? You bet your fucking ass. Not financial, excuse me, not financial advice. But when those dates happen, I have no idea, you know?
Yeah. The idea of a merger and acquisition has its possibility for sure.
Right.
But ultimately, again, like I said, the last stream is that, and we kind of confirmed this with Dang, ultimately, because of a hostile takeover, in a sense, through bonds ownership, you can literally grab control of a company through the bonds. And in a sense, that's really not called a merger or acquisition, right? Now, the reason they had to restructure the debt with JP Morgan, and JP Morgan was willing to do it because even the original 6 came along and gave another $100 million this week. It ultimately says that so long as they can pay off the debt, then what happens is Baby can be unleashed and sold. But you cannot sell Baby if there's debt with that ABL in place, right?
I mean, yeah, like, because, you know,
that's the main thing. Through the bond, sorry, were you still talking ABC? Oh, go for it, man.
Okay. No, I agree, you know, because then you could see a spinoff of Baby. And look, Ryan Cohen is interested in the Baby brand. He still is. If it really was, you know, not about the specific brand, well, guess what? He loves fucking Chewy. He built up Chewy, so you can already see the type of person he is. He deeply cares about dogs. You know, he cares about the company, he cares about the service you get. There's people whose dogs have fucking died, and Chewy has sent them like a letter. Like, that's never fucking happened to me. You know, in the past when my dogs passed or whoever I was ordering food from, that's never fucking happened. So that alone tells me that, you know, him and Larry Chang, they kind of have an idea on a specialty type of thing. And that's why I think Larry Chang and Ryan Cohen are interested in Baby. I don't think it's just Ryan. I think that Larry Chang is also involved in this fucking thing. And yeah, you know, speculative, you know, whatever. He raised 675 million, whichever way you want to debate it. He happened to raise 675 million right when the company was going to bankruptcy. You know, they had all this fucked up shit, you know, going on with not filing 10Q and everything. 10Q drops. All of a sudden, Larry Chang comes out of the fucking room. Hey, guys, I got 675 million here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think he's involved.
Don't forget, ICANN also secured an investment of 400 million on January 12th or 13th.
Correct.
And don't forget, Dragonfly with Larry, they secured that money in November. And announced it the day that SEC filing dropped.
Yeah.
You know,
so it's not so much tinfoil. It's so much, can you connect the dots going back? And, you know, Steve Jobs was one of the, you know, a big person that I looked up to growing up, right? I really like Steve Jobs, like some of the things that he did. And one of the things he said in his life is that it's almost impossible to connect the dots going forward, but you can surely look back and you could connect the dots going backwards. It's something like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's some kind of quote to it, but it's true. You know, when you look back on everything that's happened since August and prior to that, you know, even when Triton in the company, you can see that this company has or is in a full turnaround process, right? New board members, now new CFO, We've had a new CEO for the last, almost 6 months or so or longer. So things are looking good, to me.
Well, what about
Someone,
you want some more tinfoil? And I kind of shared that this week, that obviously an investor showed up to give the $225 million, and they put that straight towards the ABL,
that's right.
right?
Mhm.
Well, that one investor apparently that showed up with 225 million, let's just presume it was ICANN, who had $400 million raise that he announced a while ago. Let's just say it is ICANN, okay? Speculate with me here.
Sure.
And so now whoever did provide that must notify, and that was done on February 6th, guys, 2 days ago. That ABL, that investment has to be reported to the SEC within 10 days. Well, guess what? That brings us to February 16th. Guess what? Whose birthday is on February 16th? ICANN. Again,
Isn't that crazy?
you
All
know,
these fucking goddamn dates and shit. Like Kramer's birthday is Friday. Icon's birthday is fucking 6 days later. Like, fuck, man. Someone did say in the comments, and I'm gonna read this, is pretty good. So it says at PP Show, this is from Matthew. He said, we combed over it a few times. Seems that they are stating the company is not considering a merger or sale of its assets. However, my thesis is that this leaves the room for a bond takeover to do on, and the 20% common stock cap leaves room for a bond takeover to take place. If that didn't exist, whoever accepted this deal would be able to defend against a bond takeover.
Yeah. It makes sense based on what we kind of discussed over the past 2 weeks in terms of that bond movement, because they've skyrocketed in value. And it's one way that you don't even have to notify the public is through acquiring the bonds, the long-term debt of it. And we already know that JP Morgan is involved, and they renegotiated the ABL and such. Look at, they dropped it from 1.1 billion down to 575 million. So they literally cut out half the debt. They were handed an extra $100 million. And if ICANN, for example, who is known to acquire companies through bond maneuvers, is doing this, if they can literally pay off the debt, let's just presume, again, speculate, that Dragonfly and RC are together, if there's only $575 of debt left, right? And ICANN,
575 million,
or sorry, Dragonfly puts up 675 million. Well, guess what? That entire debt is now paid.
Correct.
Baby becomes free and available, and then who takes it over? So there's more than enough money to make this transaction happen.